My name is Luke Jennings. I did my undergraduate work in English and philosophy at Western University. Did my master's work in English literature at Western University as well. And my doctoral work in English literature, specifically Renaissance drama, focusing mainly on Shakespeare and also other playwrights like Christopher Marlowe. I have a lot of experience teaching undergraduate English students, teaching them literature, and teaching communication to undergraduate engineering students. And I've experienced teaching at the college level, at Fanshawe College, for instance. And presently, I'm working at Westminster Classical Christian Academy, a Christian day school, as well as iCALC here, International Christian Academic Learning Center. Well, today, very few are able to read well or write well, and reading is just such a wonderful thing. To be able to read well allows you to write well, allows you to articulate yourself well, allows you to think well, think clearly. And so I felt a burden at a certain point that I wanted to teach the youth what they ought to be taught and how they ought to be taught, so they can actually be inspired to learn, and I felt motivated to cultivate that lifelong love of learning in the youth. And so I found that iCALC was the perfect place to do that. Well, there's so many memorable moments. One thing that stands out is just the creative works that students are inspired to write in response to works that I teach them, that they're inspired by. Another thing is students at the end of a semester asking what I'm teaching the next semester. They want to make sure that they're in my class. I find that very inspiring. And really just so many moments where students have a moment of clarity, or where they didn't understand something before, and then their eyes light up, and they just have that kind of epiphany when everything just seems to click. Keeping my students motivated. I keep them inspired and interested and engaged in loving what they're doing. Obviously, you want to strike a balance, so sometimes you kind of warn them about the practicalities, maybe even the dangers of not doing your homework forever. But more often than not, it's just keeping them engaged and having that genuine drive, that genuine interest in learning. In terms of using technology in my lessons, I often use Canva, a program that allows me to put together, colorful, eye-catching slides. It can also be very useful in terms of asking the students questions. And then, in the next slide, you have the answers filled out, and you can incorporate little games that keep students engaged. Without technology, you wouldn't be able to do that in the same way. But at the end of the day, I see technology as not an end in and of itself, but as a means to an end, right? You still want to use it to bring them back to kind of the good old-fashioned reading and writing. A common mistake that students make in their writing is they don't maintain consistency when it comes to writing in either the past tense, present tense, or future tense. That'd be one example among many. What I do is I identify that error for them. I show them that they're lacking consistency in their writing. And I have a number of grammar lessons that are designed to specifically target that kind of a weakness or shortcoming in the student's writing. And very quickly they catch on, they recognize their error, and sometimes it needs they need a little bit of practice. But that's an example of a common mistake that's easily fixed. A lot of students, unfortunately, they can be intimidated by English studies. But to make it less intimidating, what I do is I'll bring them right into the text. They'll read the first paragraph, for instance, and then I'll ask them what they just read to make sure that they're comprehending the difficult words or difficult phrases right off the bat, so they're not overwhelmed with tons of text, right, that is beyond them. Each sentence, each paragraph, I make sure that they comprehend it before they get to the next one. In terms of building vocabulary, what I do is I bold all the difficult words and difficult phrases in a text that I've selected specifically for its high vocabulary. And then what I do is I ask the questions of the students. I ask them what the bolded word in question means, what this bolded phrase means. And then, maybe one student will know the answer, or if none of them do, I provide that answer. And then at the end of the lesson, I'll have a vocabulary building section in the worksheet designed to test their recall, to see if now they can provide those definitions that were given in class. And that has proven to be incredibly effective in terms of building students' vocabularies. Pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis is my favorite word in the English language. In order to get a student to develop good writing skills, they first need to be a good reader, right? To be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. So what first you have to do is be able to discern or identify examples of good writing. And then you want to get the students to try to model that style. So what I'll do is I'll have students read an exemplary work of literature closely, and build their vocabulary and test their reading comprehension of that work. And then after, get them to write their own alternate ending to it, or alternate version of it, or a story inspired by it, in which they're given the task of trying to model the style of the writer. First by discerning examples of good writing and modeling that. That's necessary in order for students to then eventually actually find their own voice. In terms of books that I would recommend to an elementary school student, there are lots of books. I think C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia is an excellent example. Obviously, Harry Potter is an example of a book where there are students who've never read anything other than Harry Potter, and they wouldn't have read anything if it weren't for Harry Potter. So the fact that it has that power to get otherwise non-readers to actually read, that would be an example. But obviously, I hope that eventually students will read things like Shakespeare and the classics. For someone who's just starting to learn English, I would say just be patient. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't expect that you'll learn it overnight. And just enjoy it. Make it a kind of a game. Yeah, it's a challenge, but have fun with it.